Welcome to Off the Court, and this week I have a very special guest joining me, Pamela Cookey. I have missed you. Where have you been?
Hi, I've missed you too, Miss Greenway. I've been around, but I've been loving the netball. The start of the season has been on point. One to get excited for.
Well, round 3 was interesting, wasn't it? There was wins for Thunder, Loughborough and Pulse. We'll come to the Dragons-Panthers game in just a moment. But look, you were commentating on the Pulse game, and I was speaking to you just before, and you was telling me just how good London Pulse looked. I mean, I was there. I saw it for myself.
Yeah, well, fire. Just to say, when we talk about, we used to talk about being ruthless and relentless, no matter who you're playing against, just go out every quarter and punish teams when you're on front. Well, we're definitely starting to see this now from London Pulse. They get in the lead, but they're not just resting on their laurels. They're really going out to really put those top scores on. And every single player that stepped onto the court on Friday night, I just thought was superb. First quarter especially, I think that's where they laid it down. A few bits where it's kind of eased off as the game went on, but they still kept the momentum going, which was so good to see. And to see this young side, which we've talked about in the past, how they have all the flair, the excitement, they're youthful, they're not afraid of anything, but to now be able to put it together, have some experience under their belts and deliver when it matters. That's the London Pulse side we're now seeing.
Well, I think it's the coach's favourite word, isn't it? Consistency. And you think, how the heck do you get that? Well, you bring a young group in and you keep them together for a long time, which is what Pulse have done. And it's really coming to fruition now. But when you talk about the numbers, they're averaging something like 19 live turnovers a game. And, they've played Mavericks and Loughborough in that as well. They've scored over 70 in every single game. And the interesting stat for me is a centre pass attack to shot. It's not dropped below 73%. I think as high as 78 and then at 75% against some very good defensive units. So do you think that's one of the big reasons we're going to see them in the grand final this season, or am I going too early?
No, I think it's fun. You would be hard pressed to bet against them, definitely. And all those stats that you mentioned there over the start, they haven't had easy games to start this league off. They've had to work and they've still been able to deliver. And when you look at that, like centre pass to goal, that is a key one. And you can see how much of a change up that's happening. They're so relentless of that. Alicia Scholes at wing attack, even if she doesn't get first phase, she's putting hard to get second phase. Tyler Orr at centre her feeding is just pinpoint. But then you've got the likes of Liv Sheen in that back end, who under the post is not going to miss a goal, but also not afraid to shoot from distance. So that accuracy and that continued consistency that you say, time after every centre pass, is definitely setting them up now for what we will see later down the line, because the season will come thick and fast and you don't want to be saying you're still developing when you come to like round 10, round 11. They're doing that now, which means they can only get better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just named pretty much all their players across the squad, right? There's no gaps. Chelsea Pittman, we had her on the Sky Sports news show earlier, and she said there are holes, and I believe there are holes as well, but I mean, you're going to have to play very, very well to find them. I think just mention some of the players there. That back line, just out in front of Fumi and Hallie, of Zara Everett, of Tyler Orr, of Gracie Smith. Have you stood next to Tyler? Because she is big. Like, she is a big mid-court, and so is Gracie Smith.
Yeah, well, Gracie Smith is like 6 foot. So to have a centre that's 6 foot tall, that's almost kind of unheard of. But she's not just tall, she's so athletic. And she's like a full-grown woman, even though she's 16. Like, she's got all those attributes, of a full professional athlete already at that age. And I think, like you say, the fact that they across the board in Pulse's side. So right back, we always talk about Fumi Fudoji and what she can do at goal defence, Hallie Ma'adio at goalkeeper. But you've got captain Zara Everett and Tyler Orr and Gracie when she plays in at centre, that unit is just so difficult to penetrate through, because you've got the range, you've got the fact that they're quick off the mark, they've got great closing speed, but they're also accurate when they've got ball in hand, so they help bring that ball through on attack. So it's not just the work that they do in defence, it's how quickly on those turnovers, which they're getting many of, they can then transition into attack.
Well, listen, enough about Pulse, because I think we're going to talk about them a lot over the coming weeks and probably right into the end of the season. Talked about Gracie Smith getting her debut a couple of weeks ago for London Pulse at just 16. Shannon Malik, she stepped up for Manchester Thunder, have had so many injuries in the past few weeks. Another 17-year-old, another debut. Helen Housby put it on her Instagram story, so I'm sure Shannon will be thrilled with that. I was lucky enough to work with her at Netball Europe in the under-17s. I mean, she is absolute quality. But Thunder showing again why the academy system is so important.
Yeah, and what Thunder have done over the years is been able to like bring those youngsters through and give them valuable experience in those age groups, and they're relentless even at that age in terms of that consistency and playing the Thunder way and developing their athletes, that when they do get those opportunities, even at a young age in the Super League, they're ready to shine. And it's again that fearlessness. It's that kind of, I've done all the work beforehand, so when I step on the court, I just need to play my own game. And Shannon just, I watched that game this morning actually to catch up after the weekend, and just to see her kind of take ball so confidently, turn to post and nailing shots from all over the circle, a real asset for such a youngster, and exciting to see how she develops and how she makes her way further in this Thunder side.
They just breed confidence up there, don't they? I mean, I absolutely love Shannon. She told me I had good aura in Belfast, Pam. I don't know if you know what that is, but apparently it's very cool. So I'm absolutely with that. But listen, it does help with the structure they have around. So I know they have suffered injuries, but when you've got Alma Ray, Van der Beer under the post, she was 52 goals again, 52 points. And, you know, they're playing against Forest, who have got their other South African, Rolene Struker, and I don't say other lightly because I think she's absolutely world class. She was only on 26 points. So the target of Van der Beer at the moment can cause teams a lot of problems.
Definitely. And she's another one that that experience, but also that confidence and attribute of the shot from anywhere is phenomenal. And you could see her like talking to Shannon and those around her in terms of like where she wants the ball to be placed, where they should move when they're doing that circle rotation. So that leadership that she's showing, because she's had to be the go-to in that attacking end third. When Anya Williams, they lost out. I was really excited after Super Cup to see what she could do in the Super League with more court time. So for them not to have her again having to make a change, Van der Beer has to step up, and she's brought Shannon under her wing, and she's really helping her settle into it, and she's still performing herself, because sometimes when you've got these experienced players, when they're having to do a little bit more work to help out the youngsters around her, their game drops. But she's showing that that's having no effect to her game, and she's able to help the youth plus deliver for Thunder.
Well, listen, as we are off the court podcast, we are allowed to a little bit divert. Usain Bolt was at the Manchester Thunder game. I spoke to Chelsea Pittman and she said it was down to Bree Grierson and Rhea Dixon, and of course they're playing for Jamaica. So my question to you, Pam, is who did you bring to our games?
Yeah, we were chatting earlier and I was trying to think. I can't remember. Maybe it's the old age kicking in. But we had a few celebrities come down and watch the games and offer some support. But I'm not sure of the same caliber though of a Usain Bolt. But remember when we were in Jamaica, he came down and watched us train. We were in the gym and he was training alongside and came over and kind of said hello to us all and wished us luck, even though we were playing against Jamaica. And so he's just a really nice guy that supports netball so well and gives that support to the sport and puts the name out on the international stage. So real coup from those two to get him down to a game in Manchester as well.
But basically what you're saying, Pam, is we started it because Usain came to watch us in the gym. You know what? Denise Lewis, incredible Olympian, she's been down to the game. She absolutely loves the netball as well, which is brilliant. Listen, moving on then. From Thunder, we know there's been a load of injuries, and it was a horrific injury for Liam Middleton at the Celtic Dragons Panthers game. The game had to be postponed. We're still waiting to hear when that is going to be replayed. But, I mean, her injury seems to be a freak one, but we've had a lot of injuries in recent weeks. What are you putting that down to? Are we saying squads of 10? Is it just one of those things? Is it international window? Like, what do you reckon?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And for me, like in this sport, well, as you know, I've had a few injuries over the years and some bad one at that. So it happens in sport. And so it comes with the territory. Luckily, I don't think you've had any major ones. So you've been quite lucky. But these things do happen and you almost have to ride with it. But at the same time, there's so many that's happened in quick succession. It's not one or two over the season. We've already had, I think it's like 5 or 6, and we're only in round 4. So that is definitely something to look at. I'm a fan of squads of 12 because it's not just game day, it's training as well. So it's the load that's put on players during the week when they're training. So when you're doing drills and whatnot, whether you're touching the ball 4 times or touching the ball 8 times because you've got a higher number, that makes a difference over the weeks, over pre-season. So for me, the squads of 10 is something. But also I think potentially the players, a lot of the players have come off the back of internationals. And I think this year there's been a lot more internationals played, which is good for the game in terms of the visibility and getting it out there and playing at that international level against other world-class players. But the amount of games that's been played has been a significant rise to previous years. So that could be an issue there as well in terms of, so loading based on international window, based on squad sizes, I think needs to be looked at.
First question, it's a quick one. Do you reckon you could have prevented any of yours? Because you've done, 2 ACLs, 1 Achilles. I think I've been there for pretty much all of them, sadly. Could you have prevented them?
I think my ACLs were when I was quite young. So I was 18 when I did my first one. And I think I wasn't, if I look back now in hindsight, my body wasn't prepared to play at that high level. Like I love to play and sport came quite easily, but I didn't like running. I didn't like all the endurance stuff. All the short stuff, sharp stuff was my jam. So I learned at that age that I needed to really switch up that mindset if I wanted to take it further, and being more conditioned and more robust definitely allowed me the longevity of my career. But then my Achilles was when I was 31 and coming to the latter part of my playing career, and I think that was a freak accident. So I don't know, I didn't have any issues coming up to it, and it just happened in the game. So it's not answering your question, sorry, but I think that there's two. Some of them are freak, and you might be clipped by a defender, or you just might turn funny, or might land funny, and that's why it happens. Or it could be the conditioning or the load that's placed on you beforehand, and so your body's tired already, and then you might do something that you've done 1,000 times before, but because of that fatigue, then it goes.
Yeah, I mean, looking at things, I've probably seen some of the athletes in the best shape of their life when they've done the ACL. I know there's not enough research done into it, and I think that's what I'm intrigued to have a look at, how much more research needs to be done in female sports with the ACL particularly. And I think touching on that international window, it's quite interesting. I think out of the list I was pulling together, Yvickio Solas, Lois Pearson, even Anya Williams was away with the age group stuff, Nicola Smith with South Africa. We've had a lot of long pre-seasons that I won't even say are a pre-season. It's just full-blown international netball the whole way through. So I think it's going to be quite interesting. Talking of injuries then, rounding up the last game of the weekend was Loughborough Lightning. They had a victory, and they did it without Sammy Wallace. And I saw her a couple of weeks ago playing. She didn't look ready, but how classy are Loughborough to be able to do it without arguably their starting goal shooter?
Yeah, definitely. And like we were talking about Thunder and that culture that they've built over the years in terms of being able to, even when they've got injuries, they can bring people in to support. Well, Lightning have been able to do that without Sammy Wallace, who is, I believe she's their starting goal shooter there. And the fact that Ella Clark is having to stand up and be that linchpin in that shooting circle for them, she's raised her game. And it's just okay. I think for Sammy, we saw she didn't play Super Cup, and then I saw her just before in the Super League launch day, and she was like, well, she's still doing her return to play, but looking like she will be fit for the season, but it's not quite been there. And she's had injuries before that have put her out for a couple of seasons. So I think as she's coming to the latter part of her career, it's becoming harder and harder for her to kind of be that robustness and resilient to be able to get back in. But I hope we do get to see her soon, because she is a very exciting player.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because Loughborough have kept their squad together for such a long time. And actually, the analysis I've done this week is about Nat Panagari and her feed into Ella Clark, and just how much they trust each other and just have that relationship. But at some point, you need to bring in the youth as well. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on across the season. So Pam, final question then. Big matchups of the weekend. Any game you're particularly... I hear you've got a weekend off, actually, but any game you're particularly looking forward to catching up on?
Indeed. Well, I think 2 games for me. So the Midlands derby, so Forest versus Lightning. Nottingham Forest have started really well, strong. They've got some bits in them where I think, oh, so exciting. Rolling Stricker, again, she's just phenomenal, stand out. But how now can the rest of the squad support her so that it doesn't all land on her? Loughborough Lightning, reigning champions. How can they start to develop that structure and push ahead again? I think they last weekend saw bits of it, but then they allowed... Who do they play again? And Rhinos to come back in at times, but how can they be as relentless and ruthless? I would like to see what they do this weekend against Forest, and then I want to see Panthers Mavs. I think that's going to be an interesting game too. Mavs off the back of the big loss to Pulse on Friday,
all right,
and then
Cookie.
Panthers looking for their win. I'm sorry, but it was a schooling, wasn't it?
Yeah, we got smashed. Anyway, onwards and upwards to round 4. We've got 3 games coming your way. Starting on Friday, we have Rhinos versus Pulse. That's on Sky Sports Plus. Our pick of the weekend is that Midlands derby you mentioned, Pam. That's Forest versus Lightning. That'll be on Sky Sports Mix on Saturday. And then Dragons without Leah Middleton, and we are sending her all the very best. They'll be up against Thunder on Sky Sports Plus on Sunday. And Pam, it's been great to hear your voice. Thank you for coming and chatting, and I look forward to seeing you at one of the games soon. Hopefully, where Mavericks get a win.
You too, T. You too.
Thank you.
You ain't